Hi everyone. Good, I am here. I'm Kate, and I'm going to talk about web hosting. You can catch me on Twitter at KateMonkey, and I'm a marketing director for Eco Web Hosting, which is a hosting company based in the UK. So, there we go. One thing is that I will be taking questions afterwards. If you just type them into the Twitch chat, I'll have a look at that after the fact and ask me anything. It's all good. So, web hosting is essentially a home for your website. Just like you, it needs a place to live. It needs a place where you can stick all your files, all your databases, everything that you want to put in there. It needs a home. And there are a lot of options out there, and it can get really confusing really quickly when you're looking at everything that exists. So, we start from the very beginning. When you are first looking, you might think about a website builder like Wix or Squarespace or Google Sites. And those are like a hotel. Everything is done for you, everything gets cleaned up. You don't have to worry about um, updating anything or changing anything. It's all perfectly done for you. But not much can be changed. And it can feel really anonymous, actually. You can have a really hard time feeling like you're actually home because you're stuck with the same template, you're stuck with the same patterns, you can't change anything, your customers can't change anything, and it's lovely because you don't have to think about anything, but at the same time, it's kind of boring. And you kind of feel like you're not at home. So you're like, I want to be home now. What am I going to do? I'm going to go to a rented flat. And that is shared web hosting. That's most of the web hosting out there, unless they specifically say. If it just says it's web hosting, it's usually a shared. That means you have a spot on a server, but you share it with a lot of other people. So it is just like an apartment or a flat. You're in a house, or not a house, you're in a building, you have a space, it is your space. Each website has a bedroom. That's your bedroom. You can have multiple bedrooms where you have multiple websites. You still have the same apartment, but you also have neighbors. And your neighbors are generally pretty good and they're great at things. And sometimes, however, you will have those noisy neighbors that have wild parties or have problems, or they're spammers, or they're using up all the resources accidentally, and they will affect your apartment, they will affect your website. But if you have really good web hosting company, you're a really good landlord, they will keep things running. They will make sure everything's fixed. They will evict those terrible neighbors. And it's great if you're not into doing a lot of stuff yourself, if you're not into running your own stuff, if you're not into doing a lot of updates. Shared web hosting, all the server work is done. All you have to do is update your site, update your software. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do any major work. You don't have to keep on stopping people from coming in and spamming everywhere. They take care of it for you. So it's really good for most websites. It's really good for everything that you could possibly want to do with a small website. But sometimes you're like, I want to do something a little more. I want to have something a little more professional. I want to make sure it's built for a very particular thing. And that's when you go into managed hosting. This is more like a fancy apartment building with a building manager, concierge, door person, that kind of thing. It's usually, you see a lot of these with managed WordPress packages. You see a lot of these for very specific pieces of software. Everything is set up before you move in. It tends to be a bit shared, or it can be containerized. The neighbors will not usually disturb you, and the manager runs everything. You don't have to worry about updating your software. You don't have to worry about security updates. You don't have to worry about spammers. You don't have to, a lot of stuff they've got it for you. They will sort everything out for you, and all you have to do is run your site the best way you want to. And it can be a little more pricey, but it is often quite worth it, because otherwise you have to figure things out for yourself. But then maybe you want to figure things out for yourself. Maybe you really want to tear down all the walls of your apartment and make everything absolutely your own. And that's when you go for a virtual private server, which is pretty much like a terraced house. You can do what you like with it. You can paint the walls. You can change the operating system. You can add all software you want. And the neighbors, they're all in their own separate servers. So they're not going to usually cause problems. Everybody's doing their own thing in their own house. Unfortunately, when something breaks, you have to fix it. That means that if there's a security update, you got to install that security update. If you have completely messed up your brain, if you've messed up your applications, you have to be the one to fix it. If you haven't taken backups, it's all on you. But if you want to start learning how to run a web server on your own, it's a very great way to start out. They can be very cheap, they can be cheerful, and they're a great way to learn how to run a web server. And then once you get better at it, you can start building a lot more into it, and then you can easily run a lot of different great applications off of your own web server. But then you get a lot bigger, and then you get a lot more needing more power, more resources. A tiny little terraced house isn't going to cut it anymore. And that's when you move to a dedicated server. And that's a detached house. That is all your house. That is a physical server in the data center. The infrastructure is taken care of, so you don't have to worry about the network or the power or people getting in. Like how the council, the government takes care of the streets and the lighting around your area, that's what they do at the data center. Your neighbors are all in their own separate houses, so they're not going to even go near you. But same problem. When something breaks, you are completely on your own, and you have to figure out what you've done. Or you can pay somebody, much like you pay a plumber to fix your sink. So it's great for space, it's great for versatility, it's great for much bigger, power-hungry applications, like, say, running a big e-commerce site on Magento or running your own web hosting company. But it's your house. You get to do what you want. Now, some people like to play around with having an in-house web server. Now, a lot of companies have in-house file servers or in-house email servers, and some people have in-house web servers. And you are absolutely, completely on your own. You're responsible for making sure there's power, there's a network, there's security, there's everything. You've pretty much built it out of sticks and a Raspberry Pi and a Cat5 cable. So if there's an emergency, it's all entirely on you. I knew somebody who had a server in her house when she was on dial-up, and she was very happy with it, but everybody else was going, this is a bit much. And you can easily do it to play around with, and it's actually great to play around with if you're building a web server, but I wouldn't it's definitely not something that would be recommended for anything that was mission critical. You're not going to want to run your e-commerce site on your server that's in your house. Have somewhere where you know that it's covered 24 hours a day. Now, a lot of people nowadays, what they like to do is stick it on a Git server, GitHub, GitLab, and then just change a CNAME panel and have the domain point to that. And that's a lot like a student dorm. Everybody can see what you're doing. There's absolutely no guarantee things will stay working. And, you can be like, look how cool I am. I am now on GitHub. Ooh, I'm doing this very other things. It's totally not a phase, mom. And then there might be something like Hacktoberfest, which is essentially a raging caker party where everybody goes in and starts changing things. And the next thing you know, your website has had your name replaced with Amanda Hugging Kiss or Seymour Butts or another bad Simpsons joke because it's GitHub. People can pull requests and do what they want. Which, if you like it that way, that's great. Go have fun with that. If you don't like it that way, go back to go to shared hosting. That's where your site will be existing and you have the security entered and your landlord maybe can have a look at it, but you have your own apartment. You're not a student dorm. So that's a very abbreviated version of different types of web hosting out there. I have to do my obligatory plug. I said I work at Eco Web Hosting. They pay my salary. That's why I talk about web hosting. That's the URL. If you're interested, head over there. If you're not, that's cool too. And thank you very much for listening to this. I will now check all the questions and answer any that exist. And there are no questions, but that's okay. Oh, thank you, everybody. I'm glad to know that you enjoyed that. I also, I'm also quite impressed that I took it from a 5-minute talk to a slightly over 10-minute talk because so if there are no questions, I'll give you guys back 15 minutes of your time and you can have a good time.